Good morning, and welcome back. Welcome back after a short hiatus because I was in a very low service area up in rural area up at a cabin, but back now, back in studio, my home studio, and ready to roll. Welcome to the Spin Zone for Tuesday, May 27th. I'm your host, Spin Doc, and this show is brought to you on behalf of the Daily Bread Network on YouTube and Win the Day VIP. So if you haven't yet, please give us a subscribe on there. Please give me a follow at Spin Doc Sports for all the content that I put out. Please like the video, like and share. We appreciate all the love. Helps us get our message out there. Helps us keep producing more. So appreciate everybody. Hope that everybody had a wonderful holiday weekend. Hope you got to do something fun, got to spend some time with some family. Me personally, up at my parents' cabin, we did some took the boat out on the lake pretty much all day on Saturday, took a UTV out for most of the day on Sunday, did some relaxing, grilling, all the usual Memorial Day holiday stuff. A lot of fun, and actually very profitable as well. With the low service, wasn't able to stream or broadcast, but was able to give out some VIP plays. And actually, I see Roger, welcome in. Good morning, and thank you for joining. Roger saying, "What a weekend!" And what a weekend it was. I've said over and over and over again that May and June are typically, actually May through July, are typically the most popular and the most profitable months for the type of model that I do. And man, is it holding. We are just on an absolute tear right now, to the tune of over the last week since Monday, on a 16-5 run. And as you can see there, the current VIP record, 94-67, 58.4%. Now hitting a new season high for units for this season at plus 14.5, actually ahead of last year's pace. And we also have in June coming 2-unit, 3-unit plus plays, which I had planned on starting this year as well. So just wanted to give you an FYI about that, because for anybody watching, if you are in VIP, even if I'm out of town, even if I'm in a low service area, the plays still go out, the money still rolls in, and we absolutely hammered it. So if you have any indication, it's actually the top of my X page. Please go ahead and click the link to WAP on there on my Twitter page. If you're unfamiliar with that, just send me a quick DM. Would be happy to help you get in and start winning, because May, June, July are the big months. So the train hasn't left the station yet. We're still selling seats. So would love to have you in, even for just a week, even for just a few days to check it out. Send me a message. Would love to help you. As Roger can attest to, we are absolutely killing it. 5 in a row now. And like I said, 16-5, just all kinds of goodness happening. So would love to help you. Would love to have you get in. All right. So the first thing that I want to talk about is, what did we learn? And I'm going to condense it, because the last show that I did was with Sharpie on Friday. So no show Saturday, there's no show on Sunday anyway, no show on Monday. So after not having a show for 3 days, I'm not going to go back through everything. But a few things that I did want to talk about that you should take home from this show, and from some of the information that's going to be coming out in the future for this, is Tarek Skubal. Like, that's the story. Tarek Skubal, absolute gem of gems, the most strikeouts ever in a Maddox start with 13, and had a perfecto going through almost 6. Just absolute domination. And a couple of things with that one is that you looked at the Guardians lineup, the projected lineup, and you saw that guys like Kwan and Santana, who have really, really great history at not King against Scooble were projected to be in. You also saw that the line was is that the line was kind of hovering right around a 7.5 ish, somewhere in that area. Now, once the actual lineup got released, and this is why we wait for lineups. Now, you might say on the opposite side, well, okay, but but the juice skyrocketed because the Guardians put out an absolute, like, honestly, a poverty lineup. It was all they did the same thing that the Orioles did on a moving day against Scooble. And you might want to look for spots like that and maybe even sprinkle something. And I know I'm like contradicting myself a little bit here, but maybe even sprinkle like a half unit on a Scooble over at home if he's starting on a moving day. And here's why, is because you're probably not going to beat Scooble at home anyway, or it's going to be difficult. And if you play the next day, you've already been through a series, especially if you've already got that series won. Like, let's just say that's a 4-game series, and or you at least a split. You win 2, or you've won the first 2. There are such things in regular season Major League Baseball as concession games. And what I mean by concession games this early in the year is the manager basically just says, look, there's highly unlikely that we're going to win this game. So what we're going to do is we're going to give some of our main guys a day off of rest. We're going to go let a pitcher like Tarek Skubal have his fun. And it's just one game. It's not going to mean a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. A team like the Tigers, who has the best record in baseball, they can do that. And that's exactly what they did. So the reason why I said the wait for lineups is, while you might have wanted to fire on Scooble at the main line prior to that lineup coming out, here's where you actually got more value. You wait till the lineup comes out and you go up and over, and you get bigger plus money on numbers for him that you may not have bet had you thought that regular lineup was going to be in place. It's the exact same thing as when the Orioles had him. They put out an absolute garbage lineup. He torched them. So Scooble at home on a moving day is a very interesting situation. The last couple times that's happened, teams have really modified their lineups and kind of given some of their big guys a day off. I personally believe, understanding that it's going to be difficult to beat Tarek Skubal to begin with. And so you want to really manage your guys throughout the season. So that's one thing that I did notice over the weekend. The second thing that I noticed is that, well, it happened yesterday, and we actually cashed this in VIP because I know I was probably going to play. I might even play it anyway. But seeing that not only did they sign him, but he was also in the lineup. Like a fitting glove. Chris Taylor signed with the Angels. If you don't know who Chris Taylor is, he used to be a former member of the Dodgers. He's a walking strikeout. He swings aggressively. He swings often. He swings a lot. He has a high whiff percentage. He has terrible zone contact, and he specifically whiffs to off-speed and chase stuff. So even though Ryan Yarbrough is a junk ball thrower and only averages like about 80 miles an hour, 83 miles an hour on his stuff, it was more than enough to get the Angels last night. But the Angels, if they're going to continue to ride Taylor as a regular part of this lineup, when you think about the lack of contact that exists across this lineup now, Paris, Adele, Ohapi, Chris Taylor, those 4 being in a lineup, like really regardless of the starter, can combine for 3 to 5 strikeouts every single game. So I'm interested to see what the books do for the Angels versus the Rockies, because the Rockies are the other one we get a tax on. But the problem with the Rockies now is not that they're not striking out, but that they have more levers to pull with their high contact guys. They have Amador, they have Martini, they have Farmer, and they have a few other guys where if they really wanted to, they could put out a lineup where if a pitcher is going to get what the usual line is on them, which is like 6, 7, whatever, you're going to have to do it concentrated to 4 or 5 guys. Now, the higher strikeout pitchers, like Wheeler and Scooble and guys like that, like they can easily do it. But if you're looking for a value spot on the Rockies, you got to be a little more tricky. Whereas the Angels are running out of guys of spots that they're going to be able to do this with, especially if Chris Taylor is going to be in the lineup. So look for Chris Taylor in the Angels lineup. He's projected to be there tonight. We're talking about the team or the pitcher that he's facing tonight. And it's just over or nothing on the Angels. You can't do anything else. Elsewhere, just across the overall weekend, there wasn't really a whole lot. I personally didn't think there wasn't really a whole lot that happened on Saturday. There weren't a lot of great matchups to begin with anyway. Sunday was a little bit better. The one that I did want to call out, and yeah, he was against the Angels, but this is 2 games in a row now where he's just gone ballistic. Edward Cabrera has shown remarkable control over his changeup. And when he has control over his changeup, he's absolutely lethal. I mean, the line was golden. So 87 pitches, 10 strikeouts, 3 hits, no earned runs, only 2 walks, which has been his problem. And yes, you can adjust it a little bit based on lineup, but my point is that he was throwing strikes. Because 57 of his 87 pitches were strikes. That's a good number for him. And against a team like the Angels, who likes to chase anyway, for a guy throwing that many strikes, if he can keep that up, because walks and losing control and then having to compensate by just throwing a fastball down the middle has always been one of his problems. If he can keep doing that, he is a guy who you really want to look to back on an over against a variety of opponents. Edward Cabrera he had been up and down earlier, but with that combination that he throws, he is a guy that I'm personally going to look and see if we can get some value on. And then last but not least, I think from a strikeout perspective, we played him like 2 weeks ago or something like that in VIP. And I said, if it doesn't work out, then he's just going to have to be on a no list from here on out. And that is Jose Berrios. The line was set where he was going to, he had potentially a good chance. He had a lot of hitters that he had good history against. There were a lot of guys that could have easily struck out, like Caballero, like Misner in the Rays lineup. This is going back to Saturday, and only 3 across 6 innings. Jose Berrios is a guy who is just on my no list right now. I'm not going to look to back him really in any fashion. He's probably just going to be ignored in most cases because he just doesn't have strikeout stuff so far. Has multiple games over his last 6 starts where he's got 3 or less Ks. He's just not a guy that I can trust. So will I look at an under? Yeah, maybe, depending on the opponent. But the problem becomes there's a lot of guys at the bottoms of a lot of teams that he potentially is projected to come facing that don't have a whole lot of experience with the slurve, and the slurve can be a tricky pitch. So if we're going to get a lowered line, if we're going to get a juice 4.5 on the under or 3.5, it just, I might just leave him alone for the time being and just write it off as he's a guy that just doesn't have value either way, any which way. So those are kind of the things, just general things that I wanted to touch on for the weekend. Roger saying, I thought you were going to say DeGrom is on your no list. That was pathetic. Yes. I mean, he had a good start. He just didn't strike guys out. And DeGrom is a guy where I'm not opposed to like going something on him, maybe not strikeouts, because his strikeout totals have been extremely volatile. And it's been a lot more opponent and situational based. And so I'm not really in the business of trying to scout, like trying to like hit the one time and put the proverbial string through the eye hole to thread it through about when he is going to have a game where he's going to quote unquote go hunt for Ks. So for strikeouts, he's probably going to be out for a while, but we had him as an optional thing in VIP, just kind of if you wanted more action on it. And yeah, he definitely he delivered because he pitched relatively well, but did he deliver from strikeouts? Oh gosh, no, not in the least. So all right. That will do it for what did we learn to catch us up. We do have 3 pitchers to talk about today. And there's a lot of guys going today. The finalists, potential finalist list that I sent out to VIP this morning is pretty expansive, actually. Normally it's only like 4 to 6 guys, and today we have 9 plus 2 guys that were other guys that we're talking about here on the show. So a lot of guys, a lot of potential, but new week, new money. Let's roll. Obviously, we were starting with Big Jack. I don't think he can have a start where I go not talking about him on a show. So, but Big Jack Flaherty striking out guys at 29.1% and walking guys at 8.2% gets the Giants today at home where he's been lethal at 6:40 p.m. Eastern time. And we have a cup. This is actually under 5.5. That's actually an under 5.5 because there's a line discrepancy. But we have an under a heavily juiced over 5.5, or some books have a heavily juiced under 6.5. So the line is telling you already that 6 exactly is the most likely number. Now we go and we look at Jack at home this year, and he, with the exception of one game against the Rangers where the line actually said he wasn't gonna shove and was gonna get smacked around, that's exactly what he did. His totals at home have been pretty stellar: 7, 9, 9 against the Padres of all teams, and 8 against the Guardians in a game where I couldn't get there in the end and said, well, I think over, but I couldn't get there. And him at home was just too dominant. So today he is getting a team that I think matches up a whole lot better with his overall pitch profile, because when you look at the Giants lineup as of right now, the projected one is 4 lefties and 5 righties. Now, we always have with the Giants a dead spot with Jung-Hoo Lee. You just got to write him off. He's a guy that is as high contact as it gets. He's disciplined. He will probably bat second or third, and it's just a guy that you don't want to try to be crafty against, to try to strike out, because it's just probably not going to happen. But with Jack, I always look for the chase, because if you're going to chase against this man, if you're going to go fishing, he has the potential to absolutely torch you. So we look at the top. I'm going to look at the top 2 because Lee is projected 3rd and I'm writing him off. So the question is, can we get to 6? And the bigger question is, can we get to 7 if this is their actual lineup? So we look at Yaz and we look at Ramos. Yaz, not much of a chaser, makes good contact. We have Ramos, who does chase and has very average chase contact. So of the top 3, you probably are looking at Ramos as your best bet for a K. Next 3, Flores, Chapman, and Adames, you have Flores, decent chase, decent contact, actually pretty good. Him and Lee are he's kind of like a lesser version of Lee. Adames, however, does have about average chase, very poor contact when he does, and Chapman does not chase but has poor contact when he does. So you can mark, I think in those 3, I think you can mark Adames for you can mark Adames for 1, you can mark Chapman for 0.5 to 1, and then we also up here we have Ramos as 1. Yaz you can probably mark for 0.5. So right now we're probably at about 3.5-ish, 3.5, maybe 4 with Flaherty. So now of the bottom, Lamont Wade doesn't chase a lot, but also makes very, very poor contact when he does. That probably splits. Bailey does chase, makes terrible contact. That's a strikeout. Fitzgerald, same thing. So what I have here is I have Bailey and Fitzgerald most likely for 1. I have Adames for another 1, so that's 3. And I have Ramos for another 1, that's 4, and then a bunch of guys in that 0.5 to 1 range to get to 5 to 6. So if this is the lineup that the Giants are going to run, 6 is definitely gettable. The problem becomes here is that the juice is obviously very, very juicy. So the question is if you want to pay this. I wouldn't pay it right now. If this is the actual lineup we get, what I might do is just put like 1 unit straight up on it and don't pay the juice and just take the reduced payout. You could do that. But the guys that I would not want to see in the lineup, obviously, if Jung-Hoo Lee's not in, that's phenomenal. But I don't think that that's going to happen. And then a couple other guys that I wouldn't mind not seeing. Wilmer Flores would be another one. So Lee and Flores being in would be not being in would be very ideal for the over on this one. Guys that I would want to see in their places would. One of them would for sure be Sam Huff, but Huff catches, so I'm not sure that they would. What they'd have to do is they'd have to DH Bailey and then put Huff in. Even if Huff is in for Bailey, I think that the strikeout projected total goes up because Huff has a 38.1% chase contact rate. Yeah, very, very, very poor. Another guy that I wouldn't mind seeing in is Casey Schmidt. Casey Schmidt chases a ton, has below average chase contact. So a couple guys like that I think would make it a little better. The other thing is when I look at past history, I talked about Adames being a K. He has struck out 6 times in 13 plate appearances against Flaherty. The other guys that I see across this lineup that do have some potential to strike out, because you don't have a whole lot of history here, is Chapman's faced him 8 times. Flaherty's gotten him twice, so not the greatest. You do also see just a couple 0 for 3s in there. And I talked about how Yaz at the top might be a little bit tougher to get, but because Flaherty has 1K in 6 plate appearances. So the line for this one is pretty well set as of this moment. 6 is the most likely outcome. If you really, really want, if you want to just have some fun and you have some fun lunch money from over the weekend, you could put a little bit on 6 exactly, which is, I think, sitting at like plus 275 or plus 300, depending on what your book has. For those of you that use local books, the prop application or whatever it's called will have that. They'll have bands of Ks and they'll have Ks on exact. The exact case being at 6 is probably the most likely culprit here. So, but in absence of all of that, what I'd be looking to do with Flaherty is I want to see what this lineup is. I for sure want to see if Flores and Jung-Hoo Lee are in and are batting high in the lineup. My assumption is that they are based on how the opening line is set. But if they are not, if either one of them are out, that would be phenomenal. Yaz being out today wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. He probably won't be because you got lefty-righty. But guys that I would want to see in, I would for sure want to see Sam Huff would be a nice one to put in. And then Christian Koss would be another one. I'm just going on the roster. I'm not saying these guys actually have a chance of playing. And Casey Schmidt, all of those guys would have skill sets and swing profiles that play very, very well against Flaherty. But with Flaherty, what I've learned is that I don't fade the man at home from a strikeout perspective. He's too good. He just pitches so well in Detroit. So what I'm looking to do for this one is I'm looking to play it over or nothing. And I'm really hoping that we get a little bit more chase in this lineup, because when you chase against this man, you always up your potential for strikeouts. Real quick, what's up to Adams Digest? Good morning to you as well, my guy. Appreciate you being here. All right. We will be moving on from Jack Flaherty, and we will be talking about Spencer Strider. Now, these numbers are his career numbers. I didn't think it was fair. It's not fair to compare his overall K numbers this year because of the injury and his spotty appearances and pitch count and all of that. So I did put his overall strikeout percentage, which obviously is a gaudy 36.4%. And he gets the Phillies today, and that's at 6:45 p.m. We do have a pretty evenly juiced 6.5 on both sides. Well, the first thing to know about Spencer Strider and about this matchup is that there's ample history here, because against this projected lineup, which is 6 lefties and 3 righties, which I'm assuming is almost identical to what they're actually going to go. So you do have a lot of great history against that version. And when I mean that version, I mean the throwing 99, just blazing by everybody, et cetera, version of Spencer Strider. So you have Marsh has struck out 9 of 20 times for a 45% K percentage. Bryce Harper, whose strikeout percentage has been up this year, as a 27% K percentage in 26 plate appearances. You have Castellanos at 38.4. You also have Alec Baum at almost a 45% K percentage. Schwarber at almost a 40% K percentage. And you have Real Muto at almost a 50% K percentage against this man. Now, the one thing I'll say to that, and as I started off, is by saying that is against the regular absolute unit 99 throwing version of Spencer Strider. And so this version of Spencer Strider is still kind of getting his way back, even though he was activated from the IL. He did only in his start against the Nationals, he only managed to strike out 3 guys, and did have a few rough patches. Only 4 1/3 innings, 75 pitches. Now, there's no outs prop for him today, but based on where the strikeout numbers are, part of it is due to the past history. Part of it is due to the past history against this team, because he's absolutely torched the Phillies, the Phillies guys. And it's pretty easy for me, just looking at a couple metrics, as to see why, is that Strider allows absolutely just still elite contact when guys chase. Even this year, when he's had limited pitches and has been on a pitch count for his last start, he's still only allowing 50% chase rate from anybody that he faces. So in this lineup for the Phillies, a lot of guys I just went over, is that you look at some of their chase contact and you see that Castellanos chases a ton and has a chase contact under 50%. It's actually under 48%. Bryce Harper chases a ton and has a chase contact rate of 40%. You have a couple other guys that are down there that maybe they have like league average or so chase percentage, but like Max Kepler, he chases at league average, but he's got a 43% chase contact rate. All of these guys are way under. Brandon Marsh, 48.3. I mean, none of these guys make contact when they chase. And so Strider is still maintaining a reasonable chase number for this year, even with some of his injury and other issues that he's had. So if you're going to make this team chase, it's highly likely that they're going to miss. I'm also guessing that the line is set based off of the ample past history that exists. So unfortunately, the one thing we don't have that I would love to, but I don't think I'm going to get, is an outs prop for Strider. So last time, he did throw 75 pitches. That was by design. Now, this start, I would suspect, unless something's wrong, they're probably going to open him back up. They're probably going to open him up a little bit more to around 80 to 85 pitches, which what that means, though, is that if he's in that 80s range and he ends an inning, it's probably highly likely that he's not coming back out, because last time in his first start, they literally cut him off at 75. Like after he threw his 75th pitch, that was the end, came and got him. I would expect there to be a little more leeway this time, and also be depending on how he is, on how he's pitching. The other thing to look for with Strider, and this is where, because if I'm going to look to take this one, I'm looking over or nothing. I just need to know that he's going to be out there long enough to hit this, because if it's only going to be 4 1/3 innings and Philly is just going to try, and Philly's just going to try to take and just get him out of the game that way, you're talking about 7 Ks over 5 innings for a guy on the road against a team that, yes, they chase, but also one of the better offensive teams in baseball. It's a lot to ask for. So it's over or nothing for me for this one. But what I'm really looking for, and why I might decide to just do something with this live, is that Strider's fastball. So in the simulated game that he threw prior to returning, he did not hit his numbers, his traditional fastball numbers on the gun. Now they downplayed that a little bit and said it wasn't against live batters. He's not just going to go out there and try to murk 99 in a game that means nothing, that's simulated. Okay, fine. Then he gets against the Nationals, and his average for his four-seam fastball was 95, which is significantly under what his four-seam velo last year was, which was about 96.3 on the average, running it up in the 97, 90, 99, even though he hit 100 a few times. So this year, not so much. A velo for all his pitches were down. The spin on all of his pitches, with the exception of his curveball that he barely threw, were down, and he really just went four-seam slider the whole time, with both of those velos being down. So what I want to look for is, I want to see if that velo is there. And for the top guys that he is projected to face in this lineup, which are Stott, Turner, and Harper, and against those guys, against Stott, he doesn't have a fantastic K history. He's got an average or above average K history against Harper, and he has poor K history against Trey Turner, only 2 in 24 plate appearances. So what you might be able to do is twofold. Number one, wait and see how the first inning goes. And you want to look at his four-seam fastball velo. It's kind of the Gausman principle that I've talked about on here, is it averaging 94 to 95, or is it averaging 96 to 97? And are there ones in there that are in that 98 to 99 range? If there are, then it's very possible that the next 6 guys in the lineup, he can go absolutely torch. You might get 1 strikeout in the first inning. Even if he throws a good number of pitches, you might get 2. But this is one where I'm leaning heavily towards wanting to bet it live, because I want to see, one, how many of the anticipated pitches that he's going to get does he use in that first inning, unless I get an outs prop that gives me a hint. Because when I get an outs prop, I can combine that with average pitches per inning, pitches per batter. That all factors into my model. And I can kind of gauge how many batters he's going to face, which then tells me what K percentage he needs to get these guys at to hit that number. So in absence of an outs prop, though, it's really hard to prognosticate. I'm still guessing 80 to 85. That's around my guess. And then if all goes well today, then his next start, they will either open him up over 90, or they'll just flat out say he's back and it's a regular start, no restrictions. So I think that the best option here, and I know it requires not playing it before the game, which I know some of you have to do, is that I would rather just wait, because it's unlikely that Turner's going to K. And Harper, if I'm just being honest, probably very easily will and could. And Stott is a relatively lower K option if this is the lineup that they go with. Now, if they decide for some reason to lead Schwarber off, you might have to make another decision before the game, because if Schwarber and Harper are in the first inning, there are chances that both of them could strike out, and then getting any value on a 5.5 for this one, or even getting some nice plus money on a 6.5 live, is probably going to be out the window. So the 3 you want up top, if you're going to do that, are the 3 that are projected to be up top right now, which is Stott, Turner, and Harper. And Harper would be nice if he wasn't, but it's Bryce Harper. He's gonna play and he's gonna bat third. Like that's top 3, 4. That's just the way that their lineup is. So those are the ones that I'm looking for. If you have to play it before the game, you might still want to wait until the lineup comes out and make sure this is the projected that we get. But then you can take a small shot on the over here for Spencer Strider, because the K's being up, even though partially due to past history, do say that he is going to, at least from a strikeout perspective, pitch quite well against a team he's kind of dominated so far. So that's Strider. Last but not least, my good buddy, Carlos Rodon, 31.1% strikeout percentage, 10.1 walk percentage at the Angels. I talked about how if I give him out in VIP, he never hits ever, no matter what. Even if I give the over and the under, somehow both of them would find a way to lose. And if I give him out as a free play, for some reason, it hits at an ungodly rate. The last time he was on here at home against the Rangers, I did say, take a look at the over for that one. That did hit. So we do have, rightfully so, a 7.5 line for Rodon with juice on the over. Juice on the heavily juiced on the under. First things first, under really isn't an option. You're especially not going to pay minus 150 on the Angels. That's just not going to happen. So we'll cross that one off. So the question then is, do we toss him out? Do we play the straight over? Or do we do something else by trying to bring his number down or pair it with something? So right now, this lineup is projected to be 1 lefty and 8 righties. That would be my guess. That's what they're going to finish with. The only lefty in this one is Nolan Schanuel, who is a high contact guy. Now, with Rodon, it's very, very similar. It's very similar to let's just go back real quick. Horsley, welcome in. Thank you so much. Saying 14.5 outs, minus 190. Okay, so that tells me that you're probably looking at a pitch count of about 80, 85 max. So I'm waiting on Strider till the lineup comes out. I want to see how they organize their lineup. I also want to see if we can get a little bit of a drop on the Ks, and especially if those top 3 are in, and maybe we can get through the first inning with either 1 K and a reasonable number of pitches, or none with a low number of pitches, and then I can get a better price on a 5.5. 7 Ks. The past history says he can, but 7 Ks in basically 5 innings is on the road. It's not the best scenario when there's so many other options today. I'll put it that way. All right. Let's go back to Carlos Rodon. Okay. So under's not an option here. You're going over or nothing. That's all you can do. The projected lineup has a lot of the guys that we'd like to see. Adele, Ohapi, Chris Taylor. The only one missing is Kyron Paris. So if we get Kyron Paris in here Schanuel would be the best one, but I don't think that's going to happen. Ward and Neto would be another, would be 2 more. That would be nice to see him in for. But with Carlos Rodon, it's a lot like Jack Flaherty, is that his 4-seam fastball, Rodon's is better than Flaherty's. It has more velo, has a little bit more movement and spin. But they're not guys that really get a ton of strikeouts off that 4-seamer. The main pitches for Rodon is a chase slider and a change up. So the chase slider is what I really look for, because he is in the zone a good amount, or under pitcher average. So you got to look for chase in this lineup. And so Neto, Schanuel, Ward, going just from the top here, is that. So Neto, average chase metrics, Schanuel is pretty elite at everything. And then Ward doesn't chase, but also does not make contact when he does. So I think in the top 3, there's probably about a 50-50 shot of getting Neto, 50-50 shot of getting Ward. Schanuel will be tough, so you can probably combine all those 3 for 1, maybe 1.25. The next 3, and this is where it gets fun for the Angels: Soler, Ohapi, and Rengifo. So Soler, chases about league average, makes no contact when he does. His chase contact is actually under 47%, which is just blah. And then Ohapi and Rengifo, you have Ohapi chasing a ton, doesn't make contact when he does. Rengifo also chases above league average and makes contact only slightly above average. This is probably, of these 3, I would probably put, of these three, there's probably 3 strikeouts to be had there. So now you're at 4. You're probably at about 4.25, 4.5, somewhere in there. And then, oh my Lord, Chris Taylor will strike out for sure. It'd take me too long of a time to go through this man's metrics. This year alone, he is chasing over league average and making contact at 33.3%. That is the worst mark of any hitter on the Angels, who are one of the most strikeout prone teams in baseball. It's bad. So Chris Taylor will strike out for sure. Adele will strike out for sure. He's in very, very similar boat. And then Tim Anderson, if this is who they actually bat, and if Tim Anderson actually does bat ninth, he chases a ton, doesn't make contact when he does. So you got 3 strikeouts right there at the bottom, possibly 4. Again, it's hard for me to count on a guy in the 7, 8, or 9 hole to strike out twice, just because it's a chance that he might only face the pitcher twice, and asking that a pitcher strikes out a guy the only 2 times he faces him, even though it's a mismatch, it's a big ask as well. So if I have 3 from the bottom, if I have 2 from the top, 2 from the middle, 2.5 from the middle, that's 5.5. And I have about 2 to 2.5 from, or 1.5 or so from the top. That gets me to right around 7 to 7.5. So I think that the over 6.5, if you want to pair that with something to take Rodon down, that can be played right now. Or if your book only offers 6.5, you can pair it with something to play it right now. The guys that I would want to see in, and the guys that realistically, who are they going to be in for? If Paris is in, for sure. If Paris is in for Anderson, for sure, I would want in, and would probably want in on the 7.5. If Paris is in for Soler, which I doubt that would happen, or if Chaniel or Neto are not in the lineup. Any of those combinations of things could happen, and that would lead me to be very, very interested in an over. In the end, right now, the number I keep coming up with the most is 7 from this lineup, and so if you have a bettable over 6.5 for this one, you can definitely take a look at that for the time being, and for the rest of it, we'll wait for the lineup. Especially, we want to see the 4 you want in: O'Hopping, Taylor, Adele, Paris. Those are the 4 horsemen of the strikeout apocalypse, if you will. You get those 4 in any lineup, and even against bum pitchers, you could get 4+ strikeouts from them at any given day, any given time. All right, that is the pitchers that I wanted to talk about today. We'll go to a few more questions and other games stuff to look for in the comments today. Roger asking, Spin, how's Meyer looking against the Padres? So they dropped his line. They dropped his line, which gave me a little concern. But the problem that I had with maybe even wanting to take it anyway, because normally you see guys when they go out to San Diego, that there normally is a tax for being at San Diego, because the Padres' K percentage at home is pretty elite. Because Max Meyer has not been a 4.5 since April 4th or April 16th. In that time, he's had 5+ strikeouts in 4 of his 6 starts, but it's weird because the strikeouts are down, but his outs are still at 17.5, and his earned runs, which hover between 1.5 and 2.5, are at a very, very bettable on both sides, 2.5. So my issue with Max Meyer is that he does spend 52.1% of his time in the zone. His zone contact allowed for spending that much time in the zone is over league average. And even though there have been some issues with the Padres from a swing profile perspective lately, they do have over half their lineup that has some pretty elite zone contact. So I'm going to wait to see the lineup before I want to try to maybe even get back in on Meyer. But overall, there's 4, maybe 5 spots that they can put out there that just have absolute elite zone contact that might make it tough for him. So for me right now, it's probably just a no play, but I am just going to study and just see what it does and see what the lineup is just to make sure. Godspeed, KD. Good morning to you. Appreciate you being here. Thank you. And we got Joe Ryan on the bump. We do indeed. We do indeed. And with Joe Ryan, I think that if you're going to look to play this one, I would look to play an over here. Do you have, well, not only has Joe Ryan been pitching pretty phenomenally lately, you also have Ryan, who spends about 55.5% of his time in the zone, makes guys whiff in the zone a ton. And he's facing a Rays team who has been very, very iffy with that exact metric lately. They're also, what they've been doing is they're taking a lot of first pitches. So they are one of the highest teams, worst teams in baseball for getting first strike percentage over the last few weeks. And when you go 0-1, or when Ryan gets a hitter's count on you, regardless of location, is that he does have a strikeout percentage near 40%. So I want to see what the lineup is. What I would specifically look for with Joe Ryan is zone contact, just because he's in the zone so much and doesn't really rely on chase. I would wait, and I would probably I'd want to see 5-4 for below versus above zone contact. 6-3 would be even better. And there are multiple lineups the Rays can put out there that would accomplish that. Kid Keon saying, welcome in, first of all. Appreciate you being here. Thoughts on Dustin May and Corbin Burns? Dustin May is going to be lineup dependent. I've actually already been talking with Sharpie on text about this one. I had an initial look on one side. He had an initial look on the other, but I wasn't really married to mine. There are some, when I put it on my hey, here's ones that I'm going to look at and run full lineups on, whatever, that I have a little bit of confidence in, that I really like and kind of star right away. And there's others where I'm like, that could work. And Dustin May was just kind of that could work. I would definitely look at the amount of zone contact that is going to be in for the Guardians. They have put out some lineups that has just completely devoid of it over the last few days. Case in point, why Skubal murked him for 13. Why Skubal murked him for 13, because they had 6 or 7 of 9 that were under league average in zone contact. So if you get 5 or 6 guys that are under league average in zone contact, the way you can find that out, if you really want, is you can just go to Cleveland Guardians Savant, and the first search that brings up, it'll bring up their whole page, and then about halfway down you'll see the plate discipline, and you can sort it by zone contact. So I would look to see, I would want, if you're going to go over on this one, I would want 5-4 for sure in favor of below versus above. 6-3 would be even better. No Stephen Kwan would be best of all. And then Corbin Burns. Yeah. So Corbin Burns is interesting because the conventional wisdom based on how he's pitching lately would say over. The problem becomes Burns spends a ton of time outside the zone. He's only in the zone 46% of the time, and can have a tendency to walk guys. And when he does that, then it makes it really, really difficult for him to hit any reasonable strikeout number. And the Pirates do have a number of guys across this lineup that don't chase. So if we're going to see IKF and Frazier in today, who are potential dead spots for a pitcher like Burns, and you're going to see 3 or 4 guys that don't chase, I think that whatever his number is set at could be difficult. But I definitely want to, I have to wait for a lineup for sure on Corbin Burns, just because the Pirates have thrown out a whole bunch of different lineup combos over the last few weeks. Good questions. All right. In other news, in other looks today, where I'm looking, if you want a plus money line today, and again, these are just ones that I think have value. They are leans. The Guardians money line at plus 110 makes sense. A slight home dog. I thought that would actually be. I actually thought it would be a little better, to be honest with you. The fact that it's only plus 110 tells me that there might be some value there. It's only lightly juiced, so I don't totally hate it. But the Cardinals money line at minus 115 against the Orioles, even though they're on the road. And if you want another one that's only lightly juiced, Royals at minus 115 works as well. From a totals perspective, if you want to bet some MLB totals, I think the over in Milwaukee makes sense, over 8.5 for that one. And I think that will do it for MLB totals. For the NBA game tonight, for the Eastern Conference Finals, since sad to say the Western Conference Finals might be over pretty soon, so I'll be getting more invested in the East. I think the under again. Gave out the under to VIP the other night. The under, I think the under again. I really like some of the defensive adjustments that the Knicks made, and especially after they went down 20, they completely changed the stop gambling on a whole bunch of things out on the arc, so they didn't give Indiana open jump shots. I think that can carry them. So under 221 is where I'm likely looking for that one. And then as far as who wins the actual game, I don't really have a lean on the spread. It's a tough number. I think if you wanted to play that, where the value would be is to take the Knicks outright at plus 118, but even that I'm iffy on. So I would probably stick to the total on this one, if anything. All right, that will do it today. So if you haven't yet, please give the video a like. Please give it a share. Please subscribe to me. Follow me at Spin Doc Sports. Like the video. And also follow the Daily Bread Network on YouTube. It helps us get all of our stuff out there. I already talked about earlier is that if you have any interest in getting in on this, we've had the rocket going. So if you want in, link is in my bio at the pinned post at the top of my page, top of my X page, or just DM me for details. Like I said, can get you in for a couple days and get you in for a week, full month, whatever you want. We got you. It pays for itself. There's going to be plenty of action today. So thank you all so much for joining. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Adams. Thank you, Horsley. Thank you, Godspeed KD. And thank you, Kid Keon. Appreciate all of you. All right. Best of luck with whatever you're tailing today. Back in full force, which means that there will be another show tomorrow right here at 10 a.m. Eastern. See you then.